Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see everyone on this cold, bright, sunny thing. I hope I can read my music up here. It's kind of bright. We're going to be starting off our service this morning by singing Building Bridges, which is hymn number 1023. The lyrics will also be up there, but I wanted to take a moment to introduce you to our new drummer who is just starting with us today. It's Ronnie Bishop. And there's Ronnie. We are really happy to have him here. Good, okay, so it's Building Bridges. And we won't be doing it as a round today, we're just singing it through. I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Come into this place which we make holy by our presence. Come in with all your vulnerabilities and strengths, fears and anxieties, loves and hopes. For here you need not hide, nor pretend, nor be anything than who you are and are called to be. Come into this place where we can touch and be touched, heal and be healed, forgive and be forgiven. Come into this place where the ordinary is sanctified, the human is celebrated, the compassionate is expected. Come into this place. Together we make it a holy place. Today we are gathered on the unceded ancestral lands of the Duwamish people who are still here, carrying forward cultural practices and wisdom that have stewarded this land and the surrounding waters for generations. As we feel ourselves firmly grounded on the land beneath us, let us remember that we did not arrive here by chance, but as the beneficiaries of laws that displaced the Duwamish from their homes, banned them from gathering their food, and strove to erase their language and culture. In addition to the harm of the stolen land of indigenous peoples, we acknowledge the stolen bodies of Africans captured and sailed to foreign shores, and the stolen labor of Black, Indigenous, and other people of color. In this acknowledgement, let us have the courage to consider our role in the repair of this legacy of violence and erasure. Whoever you are, wherever you have come from, whatever the color of your skin, whoever and however you love, however your body moves and your brain works, however you identify, you are welcome in this faith community. Our Unitarian Universalist tradition has no test of faith, no creed or oath to swear. We have instead the promises we make to one another, commitments we make to heal a hurting world within and beyond our walls. And now let us take a moment to light our chalice. Our chalice lighter today is Juliana Hayes. Juliana, would you come forward? This chalice is the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist heritage. May its heat energize us for the work that is ours to do. May its light make our vision clear and bright. May its warmth comfort us always. This morning, as we light this flame, we mark this time as sacred time. We mark this space as sacred space. Let us share in all of this together. Thank you, Juliana. Please join me in speaking the words of our congregation's affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship. Thus do we covenant with one another. Welcome to the Westside Unitarian Universalist Congregation. I'm Rick Taylor, a member of the worship team, and it's a great joy to be gathering with you on this service, on this Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Sunday. Our racial justice change team leads us as we explore Dr. King's call for economic justice. We're honored especially to welcome Cydney Moore, our guest speaker, an activist and president of the Burien Community Support Coalition. If you're here with us for the first time, welcome. We're so glad that you're here to share this time, to make some space in your life, to attend to your heart and your spirit, to come together in community. Please visit our website, which you can do by scanning the QR code on the cards in the pews, where you can fill out a welcome form so we can get to know you a bit better and send you our weekly electronic newsletter, the Westside Week. It's good to see familiar and new faces today. Let's take a moment to greet each other, our neighbors around us. Okay, I think I got their attention. As always, it's great to see such enthusiastic greetings. We hope you'll continue these conversations after our service in the coffee hour downstairs.
Well, I invite you all to rise in body or spirit as we sing Building a New Way, which is hymn number 1017. So go ahead and start off this new year, our first service of the new year, with Building a New Way. Why not? We are building working to be free. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. Start with the love that is the seed. We can feed our every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, the world will die. Peace and freedom is our cry.
Thank you, Scott Farrell. It's now our time for all ages. Leilani Davenberry will be sharing today's story, The Queen on Our Corner by Lucy Christopher. Anyone of any age who wishes to see or hear our storyteller better, please come down to sit on the floor or in the front pews. While we gather, let me tell you about some of the religious exploration activities going on this morning. This Sunday, we have a special MLK-focused service, followed by a community effort to join the MLK Juniors Dream Unfinished March tomorrow, Monday, January 15th. All children and youth of all ages are invited to engage in any of our RE stations and activities. As always, they'll be supported with care by our 4-member teaching team with a focus on building relationships and belonging. As a special activity, we'll also be making a yarn weaving craft created originally by the Huco Indians who lived in the mountains of Mexico. This God's eye symbol is meant to bring wishes of health, long life, and protection. Our fabulous teaching team this Sunday is Faith Iverson, Thomas Terrence, Jeanette Hitch, and Ellen Macomb. Leilani?
Good morning. Our story today is told from the perspective of a child and also her mom and a queen on a corner. Okay, let's start. Cute town, small street, people are walking, playing, gardening. Right there on the corner is our queen, sitting with her hound. Nobody notices her. Like everybody else, I just walk on by. Ma was scared at first. But our queen is just tired from all the battles she's fought and won, all the battles she's fought and lost. Maybe she traveled all the great rivers of the world to get right here. I think our queen on the corner fought dragons on mountaintops, swaying while the rest of the world slept. She journeyed all over the world, frozen lands, islands, dry countries. She had more adventures than anyone. Nobody knows this. can't see that she's a queen at all. People here tell her that she should leave. But our queen doesn't know where her palace is. It's easy to lose a palace, easier than you might think. So, Mom and I give her gifts, tea, toast. She smiles, even though she's lost a few teeth. Sometimes she tells us stories about other corners, bright cities full of lights, dark forests, big cities full of humming noise. At night, our queen protects our street. I know this because I see her. One night, it was dry, hot. Flames started edging closer and closer to our shops. The queen yelled. Even the royal hound yelled, shouted, barked. Everybody woke up, came out, got buckets of water, dousing the flames. The fire trucks came with their hoses, telling us it could have been worse. The people, they agreed, turned and started to go home. But now it was my turn to yell. I told them the queen saw the fire. She saved our homes. So people stopped and they looked at our queen and they thanked her. They gave her some gifts of water and blankets. But I knew what she wanted, a home, her own palace. So we built her one right there on the corner. Now people stop, thank her. Ma and the queen sit, watch the people go by on the street, chatting, having tea. And myself and the dog, we eat the leftovers too. And sometimes our queen still fights the odd battle. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leilani, for that wonderful story. As our children go to their classes, let's all sing As You Go.
We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go. To nurture the spark of your precious life, we hold you in our love as you go.
In a moment, we will engage in our offering, a collective act of generosity when we make a commitment to actively support Westside UU congregation and its many ministries with our gifts by text, check, or cash. Each month, we choose a community organization to share 1/3 of our undesignated offering gifts that is, those donations not designated as your pledge contributions. For the month of January, our community giving recipient is Northwest Immigrant Rights Project. Northwest Immigrants' Rights Project promotes justice by defending and advancing the rights of immigrants through direct legal services, systemic advocacy, and community education. They strive for justice and equity for all persons, regardless of where they were born. NWIRP's legal services are critical to helping thousands of migrants in Washington state navigate the complexities of the U.S. immigration system so they can apply for asylum or other forms of immigration protection. You can give by text or by sending a message with the $ and the amount you wish to give to the number on the screen. For folks here in the sanctuary who prefer to share your gifts by cash or check, the greeters will move among us shortly. If you'd like your gift to be recorded as coming from you, please use one of the envelopes in the pews. And now please enjoy this gift of music, A House for the Homeless by Mike Wold, performed by the Just Us Singers.
Sing a dream house for the homeless, for the guy in the doorway, the woman on the street. Sing a room for 4 walls, and a bathroom for all, and a kitchen with plenty to eat. Sing a dream house for the homeless, for the family asleep in their car, where the rent is real cheap, there's no shortage of heat, and the good jobs are not very far. Take Julie out there, looking worn out with care, got an AA in office admin, but harassment at work got her out in the dirt, and she never got back in again. And Jimmy arrived from a long Greyhound ride. He was hired on a fast-moving line. But when orders slowed down, no more jobs could be found, and he just couldn't pay rent on time. Let's change this world for the homeless. We all make mistakes. They say that's the breaks, but when people get broken, that's wrong. And sometimes we fall, but that shouldn't be all. For folks like the ones in this song, I don't like to preach, but I do have to teach how what happened to them isn't strange. We could all take their place with a small twist of fate. That's why the whole system must change. Let's dream a world for the homeless. Bob came from the res, made a good life, he says, bought a house where he thought he could stay. But the interest rates rose and his home was foreclosed, so he's down in Tent City today. And Nancy was smart, but a guy broke her heart and took all her money besides. She'd be on her way up, but she can't make a buck. That's why she's sleeping outside. Let's change this world for the homeless. There's lots more we'll do before we get to a world that takes care of its own. Pay a livable wage, make rents harder to raise, defend people's right to their homes. And just to be fair, make the rich pay their share. What they pay now's a sin and disgrace. So let's organize and pride out of this place. Sing a dream house for the homeless, for the guy in the doorway, the woman on the street. Sing a roof and 4 walls, bed and bathroom for all, and a kitchen with plenty to eat. Sing a dream house for the homeless, for the family asleep in their car, where the rent is real cheap, there's no shortage of heat, and the good jobs are not very far. Let's change this world for the homeless.
Thank you to everyone for giving as you're able to support Westside and community giving recipient. Your generosity of time, treasure, and presence are gifts that sustain us as a community. During each of our services, we like to take a moment to make collective space for holding the joys and sorrows of this community. As a reminder, if you would like for a joy or sorrow to be shared from the pulpit or with our minister, you can find a form to submit that on our website. Megan Schumacher shares this sorrow. Megan, Carl, Evan, and Kai's dear Aunt Anne passed away recently. We will always remember her for the great joy she brought to everything she did. On the first Sunday of each month, it's the tradition of our congregation to honor the joys and sorrows of our members and friends, neighbors and loved ones with an embodied ritual. During this time, you're invited to approach our altar table from the side aisles and place a stone in one of the water bowls, and then return to your seat from the center aisle. Please, as you hold your stones, take a moment to fill them with prayerful intention. As you place them in the bowl, feel all that you hold in your hearts, mingling with the joys and sorrows of this whole community. For those of you joining us remotely, you're invited to hold a stone or other sacred object and do the same. If you have an altar or a place on your table, perhaps beside a chalice, you may want to use care and intention to place your object down.
Good morning. Today's meditation is inspired by Reverend Susan Magion. Let us simply breathe together as we hold our hearts open with compassion. I invite you to soften your eyes as you wish and place your feet on the solid ground of Mother Earth. Breathe with me. You who feel sorrows calling from across the oceans, the rivers, and our streets. Breathe with me. You who wake with the sun carrying in the restlessness to make a difference in the world, to make justice and do mercy. Breathe with me. You who walk humbly, accepting your gifts for the world that will be made by you for the world. Breathe with me. You who sing heart songs of peace, joy, hope, and love this world. Breathe with me. Breathe in, we are peace. Breathe out, we are justice.
I invite you to sing along with We Are Love. There is a love, sorry. There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all I rest in this love. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all we rest in this love.
Evan?
The Trumpet of Conscience, a series of sermons written by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in 1967. This is an excerpt from Chapter 4, Nonviolence and Social Change. There is nothing wrong with the traffic law which says you have to stop for a red light. But when a fire is raging, the fire truck goes right through that red light, and normal traffic had better get out of its way. Or when a man is bleeding to death, the ambulance goes right through those red lights at top speed. There is a fire raging now for the Negroes and the poor of this society. They are living in tragic conditions because of the terrible economic injustices that keep them locked in as an underclass. Disinherited people all over the world are bleeding to death from deep social and economic wounds. They need brigades of ambulance drivers who will have to ignore the red lights of the present system until the emergency is solved. Massive civil disobedience is a strategy for social change which is at least as forceful as an ambulance with its siren on full. In a world facing the revolt of ragged and hungry masses, in a world torn between tensions of East and West, in a world whose cultural and spiritual power lacks so behind its technological capabilities, in this world, nonviolence is no longer an option for intellectual and analysis. It is an imperative for action.
Celia Hayes. And now I'd like to invite Cindy Jackson of the Racial Justice Change team to introduce our speaker.
Thanks, Rick. Wow, are we ready? Yeah. I'm honored today to introduce Cydney Moore, an activist, public servant, community organizer, journalist, emergency mom, foster mom for pets, and a mother of 2 children. Her resume, as you read, is replete with names of organizations and people who have benefited from her voice and persistence. She is known to speak up when it isn't always popular, just as Dr. Martin Luther King often did. This morning, we will hear why she speaks up and why we too can speak up. Cydney.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. I am so honored to be here with you today, speaking at this service celebrating Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a champion of justice and beloved leader who persevered through incredible hardships and provides a lasting example of dedication to the pursuit of what is just and good. Dr. King is one of my personal heroes in the sense that I have, upon every recollection of his words, always felt inspired, and I recall them within myself and to others often. Silence is betrayal is a short but poignant message from Dr. King that echoes in my mind regularly, a reminder that we cannot remain silent in the face of injustice, for complacency makes us party to it. Or, as Dr. King put it, he who passively accepts evil is as much involved in it as he who helps to perpetrate it. He who accepts evil without protesting against it is really cooperating with it. This morning, I will be sharing a number of quotes from Dr. King. Several of his statements, I will recall, were said in direct relation to the pursuit of civil rights through desegregation. However, many parallels can be drawn in the fight for one type of justice or justice for one specific group and another. Notably, many of the quotes from Dr. King that I will share today were made about the need for change beyond racial equality. I would be remiss, though, if I did not make mention during my time today of the fact that racism and racial discrimination still plays a very prevalent role in systems of poverty and perpetuation of homelessness today. People of color, and to the severest degree, Black people, are consistently, disproportionately represented in populations facing economic struggle, housing insecurity, and homelessness. What this point does lead me to highlight, though, is that justice, true justice, is intersectional. There are too many ways that too many people seek to oppress too many groups for these matters to be isolated into neat, clean-cut little categories. Rather, they overlap, they compound, they bury us in layers upon layers of hardship. And so, too, must the fight for justice be so all-encompassing as to liberate people from the finely woven web of complex systems of inequity. This was something Dr. King embodied well by using his voice and his actions to call for change on a grand scale regarding so many of the biggest challenges in society, both in his time and in ours today. He spoke against segregation, but also spoke against war, capitalism, and as is particularly relevant to the theme for today, he spoke about the importance of addressing poverty. Poverty is one of the most urgent items on the agenda of modern life, he said. The curse of poverty has no justification in our age. The time has come for us to civilize ourselves by the total, direct, and immediate abolition of poverty. Just as nonviolence exposed the ugliness of racial injustice, so must the infection and sickness of poverty be exposed and healed, not only its symptoms, but its basic causes. This too will be a fierce struggle, But we must not be afraid to pursue the remedy, no matter how formidable the task. With that preface, I was invited here today to share a bit about my personal experiences. So I will honor that request. And I would certainly invite you all to come and talk to me after the service if you want to discuss in more depth the topics of Dr. King, my adventures, justice in general, or anything else really. I suppose I will start with answering a few questions that I get so very often. How did I get involved in activism, and why am I so committed to the work of justice? The simplest answer I can give, and usually my first go-to response when folks ask, is that my mother raised me right. She taught me not just about ideas, but how to think critically, how to be compassionate, and how important it is to fight for what is right. In fact, and this is entirely true, justice is literally my middle name. I was lucky to be born into a family that instilled in me these values, and I appreciate so much seeing a focus on teaching our youth here today. It is vital to impart this knowledge onto future generations, to empower the youth to be actively involved in the shaping of their world and the social structures they will have to live in. When we give children the tools to develop a strong sense of justice and the will to champion that, we are creating a brighter future for all. It's something I am proud to foster in my own children, and I will tell you, to this day, it is one of my proudest moments as a parent when my son in first grade came to me and said, "I want to grow up to be like Martin." So I have been from the start compelled towards this life, and it gives me great joy to take on that role. For what better a life could one lead than a life of service to one's community? As Dr. King said, somewhere along the way, we must learn that there is nothing greater than to do something for others, and the surest way to be happy is to seek happiness for others. I feel it's important to note that nothing I have done, none of my work would be possible without the support of my community. I've been blessed to be surrounded by incredible people with a shared passion for making this world a better place, who are inspiration, facilitators, and key players in all I do. Through collaboration and working to build strength through unity, together we all, as a collective, have immense power to do great things. So that is how I wound up in the position that I am in now, and what led to the recent ongoings that have caught attentions across the region in my city of Burien. Maybe many of you may be aware, the city of Burien, where I have served as a council member up until just a few weeks ago, has been embroiled in controversy over the last year due to the city's approach taken towards our unhoused community members. In March of last year, the city of Burien decided to sweep a small group of a dozen or so unhoused people who had been camping alongside our city hall and library building in Town Square. At the time, the city had no policy against unhoused people camping on public land, which to some degree is constitutionally protected. But officials created what they considered a sufficient enough loophole to the law to force people off the property, using the excuse of a joint condo association as their justification. Burien has no year-round emergency shelter and relatively little public land outside of parks, where camping has been banned specifically for several years. This means that for those who have no place of their own, options are incredibly limited for where they can put up a tent and rest. Advocates pleaded with the city to focus on establishing somewhere safe for people to go, rather than simply dispersing them and hoping they disappear. The city refused. With the day of the sweep coming, advocates and service providers scrambled to search for anywhere that might serve as a safe place people could relocate to. We found none. So myself and a colleague of mine, Charles Schaefer, who was then the chair of the city's planning commission, started digging, and through our research, we identified another piece of public land where it would be legal for unhoused people to put their tents. The night before the sweep was scheduled, we went out to inform the people camped at the library and city hall of the new location we identified, the tiniest vacant lot, just a small patch of grass, yet still big enough to allow the group to stay together, 1 block away and right in the dead center of our downtown core. Despite knowing the animosity they would face for opting to stay in a place so exposed, a space that would put their existence on display as an affront to the commercialistic nature of a shopping district bordered by luxury condos, having nowhere else to go, the unhoused decided to relocate to that vacant lot. So in the middle of the night, in hopes of finishing before anyone might try and interfere, and in hopes of being able to avoid the impending media circus that would be coming to film the indignity of their lives being upheaved and everything they own being thrown in the trash, just hours before the sweep, we moved them. When the morning came, it was pandemonium. Press, police, social workers, city officials, neighbors who were coming to watch the sweep all arrived and were immediately thrown for a loop, seeing the unhoused people now shifted 1 block away or in the process of carrying the last of their belongings to the new space. People were confused, unsure of what was going on or what to do, and many people who were planning to celebrate the forced removal of the unhoused became outraged that they remained in downtown and now could not be removed. People knew immediately it was me and Charles who had offered assistance to the unhoused and telling them they had the right to occupy the new space. We had been amongst the most vocally opposed to the sweep, and we remained present through it to ensure people's rights were not violated. It caused quite the uproar, having 2 city officials take such action, doing something that people argued defied the will of the city. As word spread about the new location being a legal space to camp, other unhoused people congregated to the lot, seeking safety in numbers. Those who have so little and have no other support systems often band together to help each other and form a sense of community or even a bond of found family. This is just one of so many reasons sweeps are cruel and harmful, wreaking havoc on and forcibly separating people who have nothing but each other to help themselves survive. This new camp remained stable for 2 months until city officials schemed to create a new loophole they felt would give them authority to sweep again, this time in the form of leasing the lot to a private entity. City officials quickly drew up and signed a contract. A new deadline for another sweep was set, with the city still offering nowhere safe for people to go. It was around this time the King County Executive's Office made an offer to Burien. $1 million, no strings attached, for the city to use to establish a safe space for the unhoused in our community. The only requirement was that the city had to designate a location, at which point the money could be used to set up and operate a pallet shelter village, the shelters for which the county also offered to supply. And I cannot tell you all how many times in my life I have dreamed of having somebody offer me $1 million, putting it on the table and saying, use this to help the homeless. Okay, I cannot tell you how many times in my life that has been an actual wish that I have had. What a dream come true. What a dream come true to anybody who has fathomed such things as being able to have resources to help people in need. What a moment that was. The city council was tasked with determining where the shelter should go. Myself and some of my colleagues on council advocated for quickly accepting the $1 million and making land available, because of course, that's what you do. But to our dismay, the city council majority declined. They voted against accepting the money and refused to select a space. The day of the new sweep came. Charles and I once again put our heads together, scouring the city, and with just hours left before the deadline, we found another, even smaller patch of land that could accommodate the growing encampment, and with the help of members of our community who mobilized to offer hands and transportation for the unhoused and their belongings, we moved them again. And for a third time, city leadership claimed it had a loophole to force them from the newest location, so we moved them again. At the newest location, a private property owner engaged in illegal dumping of rocks on public land to make it uninhabitable. The city refused to stop them. At this point, the unhoused people being swept identified one of the last and most dangerous locations left in town that they could possibly put up their tents together. on an island median in the middle of the road in a busy intersection. And I tell you, it is a dangerous intersection. We have a lot of crashes there. It is not a place anybody should be. Nevertheless, people trying to live and survive there. Week after week, I made motions at every single council meeting calling for our leaders to accept the $1 million and offer a safe space. And week after week, they continued to reject the offer. Finally, just as the cooler months descended on us, the city council majority decided it would take action. Not to accept the $1 million and create shelter for people, but to implement a camping ban citywide. A new law was carefully crafted by city leaders to make Burien uninhabitable for the unhoused and criminalize sleeping on the streets with even so much as a blanket to keep warm. A new impending deadline was created. December 1st was set as the day hard enforcement of the new law would begin. Just as winter descended, just as we entered the most dangerous time to be unsheltered. Unbeknownst to most, however, myself, Charles, and a few of our other colleagues quietly formed a nonprofit during the months and months of repeated sweeps, recognizing the need for some kind of safe haven for people and seeing how utterly unreliable city leadership was. We called ourselves the Burien Community Support Coalition, and through the help of people and groups spanning across our city and neighboring cities beyond, we were able to reach an agreement with the church to host us on their property and build a sanctioned encampment for those experiencing homelessness in Burien. It's the first of its kind in all of South King County. Thank you. We were able to open the gates of our new camp, dubbed Sunnydale Village, just as the new camping ban went into effect. As enforcement came down and people were swept from the last space they had left on public property, we worked to bring them into their new home, one where they couldn't be removed at the whim of city leaders. I was present the day of the last big sweep, coordinating the move on location while our people back at Sunnydale worked to take in our new residents and get them settled. I watched as people had to leave everything they owned besides what they could carry on their backs. Watched as the city sent in bulldozers, flattening tents as people fled from them. We could not prevent the trauma that came from that experience, but we were able to offer some semblance of safety to many people after. Sunnydale Village has now been operating successfully for a few months. Through donations, we've been able to provide tents, blankets, clothing, hygiene supplies, and basic food staples to the people there. We have roughly 60 residents at any given time and several more now on a wait list to get in once space becomes available. We've been able to serve over 100 people, some as residents of the camp and some who drop by to ask for items as simple but as vital as a coat or a blanket on a cold night, or a meal, or a cup of hot cocoa. Our organization in Sunnydale Village is entirely volunteer run. Because we rely entirely on donations, what we are able to supply people in terms of food or clothing and blankets is dependent on the generosity of those in our community who feel compelled to give. There are days when our clothing bank in our kitchen is full, and days when it is sparse. But so far, every day, we still have something to give. Residents of the camp have been actively participating in running things, working to keep things clean, helping each other, and helping staff. Having a stable place to stay has also given them an opportunity to work on self-improvement, connecting to services like case management, looking for work, holding down jobs, getting phones and IDs, some checking themselves into detox. Witnessing the changes in people who we have seen over the past year go from a daily struggle to survive to now having security and hope for the future has been incredible. The more contentious city leaders in Burien have taken issue with our new camp, threatening legal action against it, citing laws they wish to impose that do not apply, and trying to enforce regulations that are, according to many legal experts, unconstitutional. What the outcome will be in this matter is still left to be seen, but for now, we persist. For now, our community has been sustaining our efforts, and we remain committed to continuing this operation, this service to those in need across our city, for as long as we are able. The city of Burien has its own upcoming project to focus on too. One of my last acts on city council was to negotiate a deal to accept the $1 million offered by the county for shelter. Thank you. Literally just hours before the offer would expire, and the $1 million would be taken off the table, 2.5 hours to be exact, 2.5 hours before the deadline. The city council stalled for 6 months, and I lobbied my fellow council members right up until just minutes before the meeting on the day of the deadline, which was a special meeting that I managed to call, by the way. We had our last scheduled meeting before the deadline a few days prior, and the council failed to reach consensus. And so by a fluke, by a miracle, by whatever you want to call it, I was able to call a special meeting and get us to try again the night of the impending deadline. So I lobbied them, literally on the phone, until about 5 minutes before the meeting started, and I had to rush out the door, insisting that there must be some way to come to terms that were acceptable enough to pass. And finally, we were able to get it through. The city is scheduled to move forward, and sometime in the coming year, there could be a whole new village of tiny homes or pallet shelters available to the unhoused people on our streets. This is not to say that there won't be more challenges ahead, and in fact, we know there will likely be pushback, and the project could be tanked if we are not diligent in pushing for it to go forward. The fight must continue for every inch of progress we want to gain, but we have made progress despite the setbacks, and that is something. That is everything. Burien is also now being sued over the new camping van. The people the city targeted over the last year now have legal representation and claim their constitutional rights have been violated. That legal battle will take some time, but knowing that people are still fighting, are still pushing back against that injustice, and that they are not alone in that fight, that gives hope for the future. There are, I think, a few key takeaways from my story. One in particular that I think is specific to my experience as someone who made laws and as an advocate working around laws and sometimes arguably at odds with them is this: laws are subjective. They are open to interpretation by lawmakers, police, lawyers, judges, and juries, and individuals. Laws are also not the determining factor of what is just or right. In the words of Dr. King, there are two types of laws, just and unjust. I would be the first to advocate obeying just laws. One has not only a legal but a moral responsibility to obey just laws. Conversely, one has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. A second point I think my story highlights is how important it is that we work to support each other, both in the intimate inner circles of our nestled communities, as well as in a broader sense across a much farther reaching spans. The advocacy and activism in Burien that led to our city accepting $1 million in aid for the unhoused and facilitated the creation of Sunnydale Village was not solely brought forth from Burien residents, but a combined effort of individuals and organizations who answered the call for aid from across the region. People with lived experience who shared their stories, people with professional backgrounds and social services who offered their expertise, organizations who pulled resources and rallied their members to lobby and contribute, churches and activists and organizers who have continued providing support throughout the whole ordeal, and even today bring supplies or volunteer to keep our new camp stocked and well run. In Letter from a Birmingham Jail, Dr. King spoke to his receiving a call for aid in another city outside his home and how he was compelled to answer. I am cognizant of the interrelatedness of all communities and states, he said. I cannot sit idly by in Atlanta and not be concerned about what happens in Birmingham. My own philosophy that I like to share is that community does not end at city limits. What happens to our neighbors, whether next door or the next city over, impacts us at home. Just as rot can spread through crops from one farm to another, toxic ideologies and bad policies can spread regionally or even nationally. Movements for progress can also spread, though, and grow in momentum, creating waves of positive influence that affect change in public opinion and policy. As Dr. King put it, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. A third point is that we must never stop fighting for change, no matter how difficult it may become. Quote, human progress never rolls in on the wheels of inevitability. It comes through the tireless efforts and the persistent work of dedicated individuals. It is amazing to be standing here today in front of a church full of people wanting change, progress, wanting honest conversations about housing, justice, and homelessness, people actively seeking solutions. Not so long ago, I stood in front of another church full of people who resented me, who were angry and fearful, who spent hours yelling at me, outraged that I wanted to create a sanctuary for unhoused people in their proverbial backyard. Not so long before that, I sat in front of a packed city hall so full of people you could barely get in the door, there to express their anger, fear, and outrage that I had helped relocate unhoused people to public spaces they could rest in for a time. People are uncomfortable with change. They fear the unknown and lash out when they are afraid. It is a hard thing to come to terms with, and it can be a hard thing to face down when you become the target for the ire of those whose worldviews are being challenged. But as Dr. King said, injustice must be exposed with all the tension its exposure creates to the light of human conscience. We know collectively as a society we must grow. Our hearts and minds, our understanding, our compassion all must grow. And with perseverance and persistence, hearts and minds can change. Enemies can turn to allies, and our movement for justice can overcome the barriers that stand in our way. We all have the ability to take part in the fight for justice in ways both big and small. We can hold those difficult conversations with friends and family that pushes them to rethink harmful ideologies. We can volunteer in 1,000 different ways with innumerable efforts to provide support. We can donate to good causes or march or advocate to lawmakers. We can offer a kind word and a smile to someone experiencing hardship. We can keep a spare water bottle or extra pair of socks in our car to hand to someone in need. We can all do something to make this world a better place and reject the systems that would have us fighting each other rather than uplifting one another. We can all help move us forward. Quote, if you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But by all means, keep moving. I will end my time today with a few more quotes from Dr. King. I thank you all for listening and for being here today in a moment of shared love for each other and for justice. There is nothing new about poverty. What is new is that we now have the techniques and resources to get rid of poverty. The real question is whether we have the will. Almost 2/3 of the people of the world go to bed hungry at night. They are undernourished, ill-housed, and shabbily clad. Many of them have no houses or beds to sleep in. Their only beds are the sidewalks of the cities and the dusty roads of the villages. We cannot be content to see men hungry, to see men victimized with starvation and ill health when we have the means to help them. True compassion is more than flinging a coin to a beggar. It is not haphazard and superficial. It comes to see that an edifice which produces beggars needs restructuring. A true revolution of values will soon look uneasily on the glaring contrast of poverty and wealth. And the last, we must still face prodigious hilltops of opposition and gigantic mountains of resistance. But with patient and firm determination, we will press on until every valley of despair is exalted to new peaks of hope, until every mountain of pride and irrationality is made low by the leveling process of humility and compassion, until the rough places of injustice are transformed into a smooth plain of equality of opportunity, and until the crooked places of prejudice are transformed by the straightening process of bright-eyed wisdom. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Cydney. That was so inspiring. And yeah, how about we sing? So let's all rise in body or spirit, and we'll be singing We'll Build a Land, which is kind of a promise. And it's hymn number 121 for those of you who'd like to follow along in the gray hymnal. The lyrics will be up here. Go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Come, build a land where people together, empowered by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and we'll give them garlands instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is born. Come, build a land where people together, empowered by love, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll be a land building up ancient cities, raising up devastations from old, restoring ruins of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of people so bold. Come, build a land where people together, empowered by love, may then create peace, where justice
justice shall roll down the waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come, build a land where the mantles of praises resound from spirits once meek and once weak, where like oaks of righteousness stand her people. Oh, come build a land, my people we seek. Come build a land where people together, empowered by love, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Thanks so much to all of our service participants, to Scott Farrell, our instrumentalists, John Hanson, Marion Key, our awesome new drummer, Ronnie Bishop. The beautiful solo by Cecilia Hayes, thank you so much. Thanks to Cindy Jackson and the Racial Justice Change team, to Cydney Moore, thank you so much. Leilani for the beautiful story. Nate and Henry, our tech experts. As always, it's a pleasure and a blessing to do this sacred work together. Members, do make sure to take a look at your West Side Week, which you will have received on Friday. Very important announcement. Please join your fellow West Siders at the 2024 MLK Day March tomorrow. The march itself begins at 12:30 from Garfield High School in Seattle. A couple of us will be there earlier for workshops and other inside activities. But the march itself starts at 12:30. I hope you'll come. Our next Sunday service will be on Sunday, January 28th with Bread and Roses, led by Reverend Carter and Lisa Reitzes, reflecting January's theme of purpose and reconsidering the role of work in our lives. Ginger reports that our partner church in Romania today is celebrating the Edict of Religious Toleration, celebrated annually since 1568. Among other things, the edict proclaimed that no one shall be reviled for their religion by anyone. Cydney, will you give us some closing words today?
Thank you all again for coming today, joining together and celebrating Dr. King and all of our fights for justice every day, big or small. I'd like to send you out into the world today with a few more brief quotes from Dr. King. The first, commit yourself to the noble struggle for equal rights. You will make a better person of yourself, a greater nation of your country, and a finer world to live in. The second, we shall overcome because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And the third, the time is always ripe to do right. Thank you.
All right, please rise in body or spirit as we sing our fivefold amen. 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 Sing it out now.